When we talk about puff stitches, we need to make a distinction whether the puff stitch is used in the row or in a round. To give you an example, when people work puff stitches in a row, they often work it like that. So you yarn over, pull through and pull it up to the height of the stitch beside it. In this case, that's a double crochet, and do that all together 3 or 4 times. I'm going to do it 3 times. Let's do it 4 times just to show a little bit, to show the difference a little bit better. And then you pull through all loops, in this case 9, on the hook. So now you have your closing stitch here. And what usually happens is that people continue with a DC double crochet, and that pops the puff stitch to the other side. So very often the puff stitch is made on the wrong side to give the effect on the right side. And that's okay. Let's just continue and give you one more example. And this time I'm making single crochet. I still make a puff stitch the same way. I only do 3 yarn over and pull throughs on this, so I only have 7 loops. And now I go in the next stitch. So you see, when I make single crochet, it's even more profound that the puff stitch comes forward. But what also happens is that by doing that, the puff stitch is leaning to the side. And you may say, yeah, that's because you made a single crochet here, but also if I didn't, which I'm going to undo now, even with the double crochet that I made after this puff stitch here, the puff stitch leans to the side. And sometimes that's the feature, that's an effect that people want, to have all those puff stitches leaning to one side. But when we work in the round, we are always working on the right side, so that would not work. Because if we work on the right side, yeah, maybe we can pop it. We can pop the puff stitch to the other side, but it just isn't the same, and it has a tendency to want to pop back. So that would be an option. Still, it is leaning, even though I have the same height here as I have here, approximately. Okay, so another way to make a puff stitch is to yarn over through all and then make a closing chain. This gives the puff stitch 2 top loops, and in the next round or in further rounds you need to be aware in which one you want to work, whether you want to work in that closing chain top or in that top that you had on the hook. And there is another option. So instead of going through all the loops that you had on the hook, you only go until you have 2 loops left, which is the one that you pull through and the one that was already on the hook. If you now go through both of those loops, you only have 1 top stitch, yeah, only 1 set of top loops here. And then you can continue. Let's just continue with double crochet in this example, and it's the same dilemma. You either have to pop it back on the side, which you can do, it's not a big issue, but you still have it leaning to one side. So the method that I prefer for the puff stitch and the method that I'm using in the Clare Square, where this puff stitch is used in the corners is that I go through all loops and I make an additional closing chain, and that way it still pops through. I still have to pop it through, but that way, if you look, the puff stitch appears a little bit straighter. We will be using the puff stitch in the corners, so I'm going to make a video how to use the puff stitch, how to make that puff stitch corner.